What's going on, everybody? Halloween's just right around the corner, so I thought it would be fun to make a fun Photoshop animation that could be used as like an e-greeting card or a social media post. We'll start with a new document in Adobe Photoshop, 5 inches wide by 7 inches tall. I'm just going resolution 72 RGB 8-bit, and that looks pretty good. After that, we'll click create, and here we are to our canvas. The first thing that I'll do is unlock this background layer, and I'll rename this layer as sky. And over here in my color selectors in the bottom left hand corner, one of these is going to be just like a kind of a purplish color. 4A0070 is what I'm using for my hex value, but you can adjust yours if you don't like that one. And then for the second color, I want to choose like a dark bluish purple and have it be pretty dark in there, so it's about like that. 16003F is what I have for this one. Then I'll click OK. Once that's done, we'll go to our layer style for our sky layer in our bottom right hand corner in the layers panel. Double click there, bring up our layer style and select gradient overlay, and where we have our gradient options here, I'll click that drop down menu, go to basics, and I'll select this one that goes from that purple to dark purple, and then click outside of that to close that little thing. And blend mode is normal, opacity is 100%. Instead of linear, I will select radial, and I want it to be lighter in the middle, which mine is. If yours isn't, you just need to click that reverse to make it lighter in the middle. Then I'll bring up the scale here to 150%, and that looks pretty good. Then I can click OK. So that's the background portion of this. Next thing we need to do is I want to have some animated ghosts. We'll click a new layer here, and then the image that I have is one from Pixabay. It's a free one. I just searched for ghost on there and looked through the illustrations, and I found this one and downloaded it. I think this one will work nicely, or you can create your own. And then I can go to File, Place Embedded, and select that ghost. Now once it's there, I'll shrink it down a bit, and then I'm going to press enter, and then I'm going to right click on this layer, and I'm actually going to rasterize this layer. Typically we like non-destructive editing, but I want to do that and then select in these eyes. And there's a few other things I'm going to do that will just make it easier if it's like this. Once that's done, then I might Control T this ghost and angle it up a little bit. And this one here, I'll put to where the tail just touches the bottom of the canvas down there. That'll be important later. Then I'll right click on the layer in my layers panel and find duplicate layer. And then I can move this, and this one I might shrink down just a little bit and move it maybe a little more towards the center. And then we can duplicate that one more time. And then this one here will move maybe over here. And then I might even go to Edit, Transform, and flip horizontal. Maybe even Control T that and make it a little bigger, and maybe just change the angle just a little bit more. Maybe even for this one too, just to give us a little bit of some variation there. And those look pretty good. Once that's done with those three ghosts, I'll just select those three layers, right click and merge layers, and this one I'll call Ghosts Front. Okay, then after that I am gonna actually just duplicate that layer, and then this one I'll move below Ghosts Front and I will call it Ghosts Back, because this will be two different layers. And for this one, then I can select one of these ghosts, Control T, move it somewhere, and I might make this one quite a bit smaller. And then this is going to be, it's kind of back here somewhere. And duplicate that, or not duplicate that layer, sorry. I forgot I already have it duplicated, so I'll Control T. The second ghost that's there. And maybe this one here I'll put the head so that it's just barely touching the top. And then the third one, we'll have this one here, and if I select that one and go to Edit and Transform and Flip Horizontal, maybe switch that one so it's facing the other way a little bit there. And that looks pretty good. The only other thing might be just to kind of space them out just a little bit more if needed. Select this Ghost Front here. Maybe move that one a little bit also. Alright, and this is our layer. This is going to basically be two patterns here. So the next thing I can do, let's make the sky invisible, and I'll make my Ghost Back layer invisible, and just the Ghost Front layer is visible. Then I can go Edit and Define Pattern, and I'll call this one Ghost Front. Make it invisible, make another one visible, the Ghost Back pattern. Go to Edit and Define Pattern. This one we'll call Ghost Back. Alright, that should work pretty good. Now the next thing that I'll do is over here to make these two colors, we'll go back to the original. We'll have one color be white, the other one be black. Then we'll go up here and make a new layer, and this layer we'll call Displace. And we can select Filter, Render, and Clouds. You'll get something that looks like this. To make the clouds a little less grainy, we can go Filter, Blur, Gaussian Blur, and then we'll, I don't know, 9 pixels or so probably works fine just to soften that up a little bit. It'll help out our animation a little bit. And then I will go File and Save As, and I'll select my Downloads folder. That's fine. And then in here I will select, I'm just going to call this Displace Map Ghosts, and we want it saved as a Photoshop file, a PSD file. So there we go. We'll click Save and then OK, and I'll make that invisible. And now we can make our sky layer visible again, and let's add some text to this. So there is our type tool here, and there's a type called Monsterific, and I really like it. If you have Adobe Creative Cloud, you can get it for free from Adobe Fonts and use it with all your stuff. Real easy to install. Otherwise, if you have another kind of spooky typeface you want to use, that's fine too. So here this is, I want a nice orange color for this type, and I'll just click once. I'm not going to make a whole text box for it. I just click once and it gives me that lorem ipsum text, and I'll put in here, have a spooktacular day. And if I select all of that text in there, I'm going to center it, and I might need to adjust the height of this over here, like the properties for my type. I want my spacing between the letters to be 0. That'd be better. And if my typeface to begin with is 25 font on there from the top to the bottom, let's just see what, like 16. 16's a little close. Let's see how 18 looks. It's a little bit closer together there. It looks a little bit better. Let's see what 20 looks like. Yeah, that's not too bad. I can always adjust it later. Then I'll go to my move tool and Control T and make this white a bit bigger so it's actually, yeah, I think that's pretty good. And let's see, maybe let's try maybe over here, maybe we'll try 40. Yeah, I like that a little better. Alright, so those letters are a little bit closer together in there. Stick it here, maybe rotate it just a little bit, and then if I go in here to the layer style for my Have a Spooktacular Day, I can double click on that, and let's go to the stroke section, and on there the first one that I'll put in will maybe just be a black outline. Let's see if we make that a little bit bigger, maybe just a little bit smaller. 2's not too bad for the size. Then if I click this little plus here, I can add another one, and then this one is going to be a yellow. So we'll kind of go with some candy corn style colors for this a little bit, and then this one I just need to have it be wider so it goes out further, and I do like that look quite a bit. We'll click OK, and now we're ready for bringing in our ghosts. So let's make a new layer. One layer is going to be right underneath Have a Spooktacular Day. I'll add a new layer there, and this one I'll call Back Ghost Animation, and I'll use Shift Backspace to fill and my contents come up. We'll go to 50% gray. There that is. And then if we go into this layer style for this, one of the things is up here at the blending options, I'm going to bring down the fill opacity while I'm here. It's going to hide the gray, which is fine. And then I want to go to pattern overlay. Select on that. It's going to bring up these leaves or whatever your last pattern was. I think it does the leaves by default. And then I have these two patterns here, and one of them is called Ghost Back. So I'll select that, and then here's my ghosts. Make sure the scale is 100% so that you know it's aligned up how we had it before. And that looks pretty good. The only thing that I'll probably do differently, and I might have to redo this later, and that's fine, but I might bring this opacity down to like Let's see what 20% looks like. And that looks good there, I believe. So then I can click OK. Now we'll do that same process. We'll make a layer above our text, and this one we'll call front ghost animation. Very cool. And shift backspace to fill it with 50% gray. Go to the layer style, and then we want to go up here, drop the fill opacity down to 0, go to pattern overlay, and this time we want to select our front ghost pattern. And this one here, maybe the opacity will change for this one a little bit. Maybe this one will have be, let's see what, 50's a little strong. I think 40% will be fine. And then we'll click OK. Alright, so this is our card. Now we want to animate it. So to do that, we go up here to Window, and then to Timeline. Gives us this timeline down here. I might zoom out just a little bit to give me some real estate up there. And in the timeline, I need to move this little thing out of the way. I want this to say Create Video Timeline, and then I'll click on it. And it's going to bring up our timeline editing features down here. So the things we're looking at, we're only going to affect 2 of these layers. Make sure this blue scrubber is all the way to the left hand side of your timeline. And then we'll go over here to front ghost animation. I'll click this little arrow, and we want to select the stopwatch for style. Alright, once that keyframe shows up, then we'll bring the scrubber all the way to the right, and we'll go over here to our layer style for front ghost animation, and I'll select pattern overlay, and while holding shift I'm going to click and drag and move these ghosts on this layer, and I'm going to do this 2 times. So I click and drag this up, and the ghost tail is touching down there, so that's 1 revolution or whatever you want to call it, and I want to do it twice, so I'll go here. And the reason why I'm holding shift while I do that is because it helps me to drag this, you know, perfectly straight. Once that's done, I'll click OK. Go back over to here. I'll bring the scrubber all the way to the left, and then I'll play this. And that looks pretty good so far. Okay, then what I will do is go down here to the back ghost animation and make sure the scrubber's all the way to the left. Click there. Bring this over to the right. So I moved these ghosts twice. So I kind of want a little parallax scrolling effect. So these are the front ghosts are going to be moving faster than the back ghosts. That kind of makes sense. So then I'll go here to my back ghost animation layer style, double click. And this is the one I'm going to keep an eye on. So I'm going to click while holding shift. I'm going to click and drag and move these ghosts to where that ghost's head is touching the top up there. Then I'll click OK. Then I'll bring the scrubber all the way to the left. And you can see those ghosts are kind of moving at different speeds. And the ones up front pass in front of the letters. And the ones in back move behind the letters. Alright, now to make them look a little more spooky when they're moving, we'll begin up here with the front ghost animation, and I'll right click on that layer and go to Convert to Smart Object, and I'm making sure that this scrubber's all the way on the left over there. Alright, so right click and Convert to Smart Object. And then I need to also do the same thing for the back ghost animation. I'm going to convert that one to a smart object. There we go. And then I'll select the top one, and I'll go up here to filter, and let's go to distort and displace. This thing's going to pop up here, and 10 by 10 is fine for this. And then I'll go stretch to fit, and I want to repeat edge pixels, and I want this embed file data clicked on there. So then I'll click OK. Then this window's going to open up, and I want to select my displace map that I saved earlier, and I'll click OK. And then you can see already it kind of distorted those ghosts a little bit in the front. You get just a little bit of waviness to them, which is pretty neat. And then we'll go down here to the back ghost animation, and the same thing, filter and distort and displace. Maybe this one up here I might go 15 by 15, distort it even just a little bit more, and then bring in my displace map. And you get kind of these places where those ghosts stretch a bit, and you get kind of a neat effect. Alright, so let's push the play button and test this out, see how this is looking on here. It's a little choppy on my computer right now, and that's alright, but I think that'll work. One thing you might do, just to keep in mind, maybe you don't want your ghosts overlapping as much as mine. Maybe I could have spaced them out horizontally a little bit more, but I think it'll still work nicely. Then I will go up here to File. I can save it as a Photoshop project and just call it animated card, and save it to my cloud, and then I can always make changes to it later if I need. But the other thing I can do is I can go to File and Export, Save for Web Legacy. And that brings us to this window. We want to select GIF 128 dithered, sorry. And it might take just a moment. And when I look at this, my gradient is a little simplified, and it's because of this GIF file. If I go over here and I change this, to like 100%, then it softens that gradient a little bit, and it looks a little bit better. You can look down here in the bottom left hand corner, 2.907 megabytes. That's important because if I want to post this on Twitter or something like that, I believe Twitter has like a 5 megabyte like file size for these GIFs. I could be wrong, but I think it's got to be 5 megabytes or smaller, unless I'm thinking of something else. But that's well within that size. And then the last thing I want to look at is my looping options. I want to save forever. Okay, then when that's done, I'll save this, and I'll just save this in my downloads folder to try it out, and it's going to save it as displace map ghosts. I'll click save. It's going to do its thing. I'll open up this window here and open up my e-card, and there we have it. How cool is that? So a nice little animation of these ghosts going through different speeds and all that. It's just kind of a fun seasonal kind of thing you can do as a simple animation for Photoshop. Let me know what you think in the comments. I appreciate you watching, and we'll catch you hopefully on our next tutorial video.